This is a WoW interview with Holly. Someone said Ian's in here as well. Oh yeah, Ian is in here as well. And this is on World of Warcraft bosses on aging players, which is interesting. I wonder what she's going to say. Yeah, the player base is getting old, so we have to make the bosses a lot easier. I don't know. Midnight and the expanding WoW IP. Apparently they talk about classic WoW in here as well, and Midnights are on the corner. Don't know what to expect from this, but let's take a look.
Elf is poised for growth. It's a fantastic IP. It's been underutilized, and I just want to bring it to as many people as possible.
We firmly believe that our best years are ahead of us. It's game design, but it's also social design, and it's trying to understand and think about how we meet a new generation where they are.
Okay.
Hello and welcome.
Meet a new generation where they are. I wonder what the analytics look like for the next generation playing WoW. I mean, I don't have the analytics, but I would assume that they're pretty bad. Like, I would assume like most people playing WoW have been playing WoW or have played WoW at some point. Like, I wonder what the analytics are for like brand new players playing WoW. I mean, I don't know.
The Game Business Show with me, Christopher Dring. Now, the iconic World of Warcraft remains the biggest MMO in the world. It's now well over 20 years old and is about to launch its latest expansion, Midnight, next month. I've not actually caught up with the World of Warcraft team for a very long time, and things have changed quite a bit since I last did. They now make expansions a lot faster. They've changed their dev structure to be more reactive. They launched World of Warcraft Classic, a bit like old school RuneScape. It's a very old version of World of Warcraft, and that has a major impact on what they're doing with the modern game too. So when Blizzard invited me to chat with executive producer and vice president for World of Warcraft, Holly Longdale, and game director Ian Hazikostas, I said, actually, yes, please, that would be quite interesting.
Yeah,
so I want to know, what is the future of Warcraft? How are they catering to the aging audience? What can we expect from Midnight? And what's changed now that they're part of Microsoft? Here's what Holly and Ian had to say.
Cool.
Hello, Holly. Hello, Ian. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hello.
You're about to launch this big Midnight expansion. I'm going to ask a very broad, general question, but how significant is this one? How does it compare to what you've done previously?
Let me guess. It's massive. It's the biggest thing they've ever cooked. Let's see it.
It's a big one.
I knew it. I knew it, dude. I knew it was a big one.
It's also a continuum of the direction we're going in. The World Soul Saga, just this notion of having, a multi-expansion storyline is something new for us, or was new for us when we embarked on this journey. At the same time, though, World of Warcraft is always World of Warcraft. We are telling stories where the world is evolving as we move forward. But obviously, we are focused, I'm sure we're excited to talk about that here, about where we're going with World of Warcraft over time. Everything you're seeing is a result of listening and observing, and what the team is passionate about, what we see the players are passionate about, how we watch player behavior. Being mindful in terms of what makes it big, it's this ongoing process of watching player behavior, how gaming is changing, how our players are changing, as well as how they're staying the same, the things they will always want. But we're really excited about it. We want everybody to play World of Warcraft. We think it's beautiful.
WoW is beautiful. One of the things that she said that made me think a lot over the last year or two is listening to our players, because it's really easy to get confused by very loud minorities and not really understand what the silent majority actually wants, right? I think polling would solve this issue. But when you're listening to the player base, and I'm not really taking shots at Blizzard here, I'm saying it sounds like a difficult thing to do. How do you differentiate between the super loud minority that's crying over nothing that they just need to pipe it down versus the silent majority that kind of knows what they want, but they're just playing the game, right? It's actually pretty tough. I think it sounds like it would be tough to differentiate between that. I think polling would help this. But yeah, because I think in the past we've seen a lot of changes that it's no one asked for this, and it's well, on the forums there were actually a couple people crying about it, right?
Yeah, and I think with regard to Midnight, every World of Warcraft expansion is expanding our world. It's telling exciting new stories. It's offering a range of new experiences and challenges for players. But I think what makes Midnight pretty special is that this is introducing probably the biggest single feature we've ever added to World of Warcraft. and it's an entirely new way to play and experience the game. And I'm talking about our housing feature.
Housing.
In the past, you were wandering this world of Azeroth. You were exploring. You were, slaying dragons and getting epic loot and making friends along the way. But housing lets players own a piece of the world that they can customize and shape to be their home away from home, and a new avenue for expression and a new avenue for connection. And this is something that we're introducing with an eye towards it not just being a centerpiece of Midnight, but really World of Warcraft going forward. All of our future expansions, everything we do is going to be interwoven through this system. And so it's exciting, a little bit terrifying rolling it out and seeing, millions of players jump in and begin to experience it. But
I know people like to meme about housing, but the reality is, if you look at retail and the landscape of retail, nice pause frame right on the blink, it actually makes a ton of sense. So why do I say this? I say this because retail over time has become a collection simulator game, right? You collect achievements, you collect titles, you collect mounts, you collect transmog, or you collect things, all of the things, right? Housing gives you a place to house all of those things in a real physical location, right? It actually makes so much sense for housing and retail. Would I want it in Classic? Not necessarily. Like, do I like the feature myself? Like, I don't really care myself, to be honest. But I think it's really good for retail. It makes sense.
It's probably one of the biggest changes I can think of in the game's history.
Because like The Sims, really, and Animal Crossing, and a bit cozy gameplay. Is that a reflection of how your audience is changing? Or has it always been like that?
I think for us, it's acknowledging the audience that has been there. They've been asking for this for 20 plus years. And when I talked about observing player behavior, we know about our players. While we have a full range of ages, we know that people across the industry, gamers that is, they don't have a lot of time anymore necessarily. And we want to make sure we're respecting the ways they play. And things like housing allow you to come in, achieve something without pressure. And we see this more and more across the industry and even across our own players when we watch them play. So you're aware of this, Chris. When you first launch an expansion, we have a whole segment of players that come in and play through the campaign, and then they're happy. They got the story and they're happy. And then they get into a more casual space. Well, we want them to be able to come in and play, which is another reason why we created the live team, to be more reactive and have patches every 8 weeks or so, because they just want to be able to come in and experience something short term within an hour, half hour. So we want to be cognizant of that, as well as, frankly, we wanted it to, while it's coming out now, Ian can speak to this in clearer terms, but there's been a number of people working on this for years and years because of their passion around it. So,
yeah, I think it's a feature that's been speculated about by players and asked for by some players, honestly, since WoW's earliest days. I mean, I've been on the team for coming up on 18 years at this point.
It's a while.
And it's something that was being discussed internally as a potential idea for as long as I've been on the team. But it always felt a bit too big. It always felt just out of reach, because fitting a feature of this scope into a single expansion, just the development cycles didn't work out. So what we ultimately ended up doing was devoting multiple expansions worth of development time to make it everything it needs to be in order to meet players' expectations and exceed them. And I think, so far it's been really exciting seeing people jump in. Getting back to the question about player motivations and audience, I think it's a mix of kind of broadening our reach and trying to offer, new motivations, a new type of gameplay. But it's also about, I think, serving players and motivations that have been there since day one. Like from the earliest days of World of Warcraft, we've had vibrant roleplay communities that aren't going out and playing our dungeons that we made for them. They're telling their own stories with each other. They're interacting with each other.
Like Weed Elf, yeah.
And that's almost in spite of us not giving them many tools and a framework within which to do that. Players have always, been drawn to socialization, to cosmetic customization, to self-expression. And I think this is pulling all of those motivations together.
This, to me, is what drove me to play WoW instead of any other game. The pause frames are legit. I always, so when I was a young gamer, the reason I liked RuneScape and then the reason I liked WoW is because I could log in and do what I wanted to do. There wasn't like a campaign to follow. There wasn't an arrow to say, go over there and do this next, then this, then that. I could literally sit in the city all day and make gold if I wanted, or I could hang out in Goldshire all day, or I could level an alt and hang out in Westfall, whatever I wanted to do, right? That's cool. That's always what made WoW the GOAT, right? To me, like I loved it.
I think we're excited to really be able to truly serve this audience that has always existed and been a huge part of World of Warcraft's history, but now can kind of be front and center when it comes to this portion of the game.
Holly, I like what you talked about, these sort of people with less time, and we're actually seeing that, particularly as you look at the data and the industry's aging, right? We're not kids anymore. People have less time, and it must be true of your audience. It's a good question. Well. I imagine you're bringing in new people all the time, but I imagine that how old World of Warcraft is now as a franchise, you must be having it where some of your core most avid players just don't have that much time or play in different ways than they used to.
1,000%. And I think it's interesting too that there's so many aspects of this game that do largely address that. For example, when we look at guilds and weekly rating, having a schedule you can kind of build some of your life around enables that kind of gameplay, which I think is fantastic. We didn't necessarily do that at the casual end of the scale, and that's why we're really excited about housing, given that housing reaches through every gaming segment we have in our game, between casual and people who we lovingly call them midcore.
Midcore.
And it is about time. We've got a lot of players that...
Wait, what was midcore? Like not the hardcore or the softcore? It's like in the middle?
Say to us, I want to play with my kids now. Like, give me something I can do and play with my kids or play with my partner. We have so many players, and now the ability to really dig into how they play. It's given us a lot of really interesting opportunities to be able to, broaden, to Ian's point. We are aiming at a game that's approachable for anyone. Mm-hmm. This idea of a third space that you can come and hang out, and it's not necessarily just standing there staring at each other. You can go do housing. You can go collect things for housing. Mm-hmm. You can go raid. You can dungeon. We're looking at different ways with the time you have available to have options that feel meaningful. Delves are another part of that. I'm really proud of how the team has crafted a response to how players are changing and what they're...
Like I know people are gonna hate on like the housing, whatever, but what she's saying actually makes sense. It really does. Where retail's at, it's a collection sim. You want a place to house all the things that you're collecting. Like, let's be honest, that's what retail is. Like, people farm transmogs or farm mounts or farm titles or farm achievements, and they want to like house it. Like, it makes so much sense. Like, I know people want to hate on it, but that actually does make sense.
We're asking for.
I like the idea that at some point
and like, don't get me wrong, like I've played mainly classic the last 4 years or 3, 4, whatever. Like, I'm more of a classic guy myself, so I don't know if I'm necessarily the target market anymore. I still do plan to play retail, by the way, but like for the people playing retail, I think this makes a ton of sense.
The probably not too distant future, you're going to have a generation of players that grew up with World of Warcraft who are now retiring, and suddenly these situations reverse, and you're going to have a very active audience with lots of time on their hands, and they want a very different thing.
Yeah, Classic and plus. I think we also too, like in our meanderings and aspirations, we look at other games that have a lot of younger players, and they're going to grow up. Mm-hmm. And why can't we be there to meet them, as they advance? So we're thinking pretty broadly, but not so broadly that we're scattered.
Wow, that's actually okay. Yeah, they're really thinking far ahead then. These kids are going to grow up and we'll be there to meet them. They're not here to collect the kids of today, but the adults of tomorrow. Sheesh. Okay. Endgame.
Once we make a decision, we are very committed to it. I think housing, to Ian's point, is an expression of that, one of the biggest fears we were talking about is like, we can't launch it if it isn't great. Yeah. Because that's not who we are nor who we want to be. But we do want to be creative about how we deliver for the variety of players that do love WoW, and those we hope will love it in the future.
I think breadth really is the key there. It's less about change in the sense of moving away from something and becoming something different, and more about being broader and more approachable in our offerings and meeting people where they are. I think we already do have, retired folks playing World of Warcraft.
Yes.
Generation of young students who may have all the time in the world to dive into World of Warcraft. I think, 20 years ago, there was the sense that from a lot of people, the game might be something that appealed to them, but they thought, they're like, I don't have the time for this. World of Warcraft is a game that's going to be all consuming. And if you can't, spend dozens of hours a week, there's no point. That is not what we are anymore. It's not what we've been for a long time, but we still have that depth for those who want it. It is a game that can be experienced in bite-sized chunks. If you only have 20 minutes to play, you can accomplish something and move your character forward. But if you have an entire weekend or a vacation or whatever, and you want to go deep, that's there as well. And so I think,
one of the things that I've really liked about hardcore from the casual standpoint is that if you're a hardcore player and you want to play for 20 minutes, you can do one quest, turn it in, log off, and you made progress. It was measurable. You're making your character stronger. Now, if you have the full weekend to play, you could grind from level 20 to level 40 in a weekend, no lifing it, or whatever, 20 to 30 or whatever, right? So it's up to you on how much you want to play. That's pretty cool about hardcore. With retail though, if you have 20 minutes, that's probably not enough time to queue up a solo shuffle. It's probably not enough time to do a Mythic Plus. Definitely not enough time. If you have an hour, you could probably do one solo shuffle, but you'll be sitting in a queue for 30, 40 minutes, right? You could do a delve. Yeah, you could do one delve in 20 minutes probably. But my point is sometimes classic in that sense, or classic hardcore is pretty approachable on that 20 minute or 30 minute time frame, and sometimes retail isn't. So I don't know, I've thought about this kind of both ways.
That's kind of been our approach to make sure that we are growing up with our players, but also remaining approachable and exciting for new generations and for everything in between.
How is the objective to sort of deliver faster expansions? I know that's been going on a while now, but how has that been going? Have you learned anything unexpected from that?
I'm not sure I'd say unexpected. We've learned a lot. It's very challenging. It is trillion-piece puzzle, and just organizationally, the team changed a lot, so we could bring focus. So we have actual teams dedicated to each expansion and dedicated to live, and we have a team dedicated to housing. We are a pretty large-scale team, but when you look at the pieces of the teams that create the product, they're sort of average size. But for our ability to be able to speed up expansions a bit, it hasn't been easy, but my goodness, how they've taken the challenge. We always go through this on this team, and I couldn't love them more for it. We scope things so that they're reasonable and doable, and they always do more than we expect. Sometimes, most of the time they tell Ian. But a lot of the time they're like, hey, I added this thing, because that's the level of passion that is required. Not the time, the passion. They find ways to do things without too many compromises to themselves. They're just so creative and innovative and passionate about what they deliver to players to always give them that 20% more somehow. So I think in what we've done, I think as we go through it, Ian, we forget that we're shaving time off for the good of the players. It isn't easy, but the process has remained relatively similar. It's just around focus, like Metz and Ian, and we have a core crew at the beginning of any expansion. 13 is already well underway, Lost Titan's well underway, and we're thinking beyond that. It requires that kind of focus and planning.
I like how she calls the expansion 13. It's just easier to call it by numbers. Oh, we're working on 12, 13. Oh, we're working on 14 next. Because the names at this point is it's so confusing. I saw this YouTube short of Soda Poppin', and he was trying to sort all the expansions by when they came, the order. And Soda's played a lot of WoW, and he said he couldn't do it. I thought that was funny. And I'm can I even do it? No, probably not. I'll probably mess up BFA and Shadowlands and a couple of those towards the end, Dragonflight, it's which order did those come in again? It's been a minute.
In order to make this real so that people do have the time and the agency to create what they want to create within. So if I were to say we learned anything, it's really how to be sharp and be clear with a pretty large team about what we're doing, what we hope they can do as we move forward. A lot more communication.
The focus hasn't necessarily been on faster expansions per se. It's more been on a steady delivery of content to players without gaps. And I think 10 years ago, it was almost taken as a given by our community that at the end of a given expansion, there was going to be a 6-month drought with nothing new in World of Warcraft. And like, it objectively unfair to our players and something that we've been working for a long time to try to fix. I think from my perspective, the one biggest change, along with, just very rigorous planning and pre-planning, I think has been investing in our leaders. I think at times in the past, we've tried to grow the team, thinking, all right, let's bring more people on to deliver more content with fewer gaps. But there were still, when we tried this years ago, we still ran into the same bottlenecks in terms of approval, of creative direction, of game direction, of decision making. And I think our focus in the last few years has really been on building empowered, strong, creative leaders, people who understand the spirit of World of Warcraft and can make decisions and keep things moving forward so that we can work on multiple things in parallel and keep content flowing into our players' hands. I think for those who've been following World of Warcraft press for a long time, past leaders have talked about the goal for faster expansions, I think, as long as I can remember. Before I even worked at the company, there were people talking about annual expansions like in the Burning Crusade, Wrath of the Lich King era. But I think what that always ran into was, again, these bottlenecks where because everyone was focused on one thing and making it great, the next one along the line withered and was delayed. And I think what, as we release Midnight in a few weeks, this will be the fastest expansion we've ever made.
It's crazy.
In terms of the shortest gap between expansions. We've had regular 8-week content updates all along the way. No corners cut, no compromises in terms of what we're delivering to our players, and no sacrifices to quality. And I think most importantly, perhaps, no sacrifices to team health. I think I can truly say, which may be a rarity in the game industry, but thankfully that's starting to change more. This is an expansion that was made without crunch.
How much quicker is the turnaround here? Because on average, like each expansion's been 2 years. When did War Within launch? It was the end of 2024? It's like a year and a half. So it's like 6 months quicker. August 2024, right? And now it's February 2026. Okay, yeah. So like solid like 6 months quicker.
It was an expansion that was made without telling the team, all right, we need to come in weekends and stay late and work harder. We did this smarter instead of pushing our team in unsustainable ways. Because at the end of the day, we're going to keep making this game for years and years and decades.
Hey, Toom, congrats, man.
And this is a marathon, not a sprint. And we need to treat it accordingly, both when it comes to supporting our team and supporting our players.
Well, that's a very thorough answer. I like that. Any follow-up questions I might have had were summarily handled. Well, one thing I'm always fascinated with, because I live in Cambridge, so I live near Jagex, and their thing with RuneScape and RuneScape, old school RuneScape, I find that absolutely fascinating. I know that's completely transformed that company, and obviously I've not spoken to you since the class.
This is the good question, guys. Yeah, Jagex with old school. A lot of parallels here. What's going on, B?
Classic version of World of Warcraft, which was just ages ago now. But so I'm interested to know, what have you learned from that? What's that done since bringing that out?
Okay, great question.
Classic? Classic?
Holly, what do you, Holly?
And obviously I've not spoken to you since the classic version of World of Warcraft, which was just ages ago now. But so I'm interested to know, what have you learned from that? What's that done since bringing that out?
Classic? That was my starting point on World of Warcraft, I think a few months after it launched. I think for the internal team, it was unexpected. For those of us on the outside, it was like, well, obviously, but the scale and scope of it outpaced anything anyone could imagine, not just in numbers, but in audience and passion. They are completely different for the most part than modern players.
Oh, sounds okay.
They behave differently. They want
different. We're built differently too.
Different things. Okay. We don't have a whole lot of crossover between both games.
Interesting. Okay. So Holly kind of said it. This is what we expected. There's not a lot of crossover. Like you either have the classic players or the retail. Maybe that's why they don't care to stack them as much as, like for someone like me, it sucks. But like maybe that's why they don't care to stack them as much.
Really?
So that team is listening very keenly to that audience, and they always have. even in terms of pacing of patches. And it's all very engineered for the audience that is specific to Classic.
Oh, wow.
And then, in my early times, especially when I came to Classic from the outside, seeing this amazing transformation, obviously in partnership with Ian the entire time and the rest of the leadership team, is this idea of, can we as World of Warcraft do a bit of experimentation? Because we hear what they want. Can we do this idea of seasons for Classic just to get a picture? What do they really want? And in some cases, they created it themselves, like Hardcore. And we thought the ability to pivot on the Classic team and create Hardcore and launch it as an official realm, like that, to me, that's what we're aiming for, is
Classic Plus.
Reactivity to what the players, not just those
Classic
who
Plus.
create it themselves, what we're hearing, where the trends are, what the mood is. And I think, some of them are bigger lifts, like housing. And Classic, it's on a long journey of, I hate to say discovery given season of discovery, but we're in a very exploratory space with Classic, and we are listening. But it has, at a foundational level, changed how the WoW team thinks about the content they create and make, in that it can be reactive while they are committed to what Classic is. Like, there's Era that is the unchanged version of Classic. And then we have Progression, which is reliving how expansions roll out. And we were completely staggered that for the anniversary rollout, that was just as popular as anything else we've done. And in my own history in this MMO industry, there is this group of players that cycle over cycle will keep doing it and want to relive those moments, those day one moments and, year one moments. So again, very different behavior than modern.
Wow.
Different ethos. And so those teams are obviously separate because their focus is entirely different.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So I know
that was actually a pretty enlightening answer. Okay, so the first thing we learned is that Classic players and modern players seem to be, at least in Holly's mind, completely separate player bases. So like that's why we kind of get stacked releases sometimes. Like they're just different, which kind of makes sense. And that's why when it's like, oh, we should try to make Classic appeal to retail or retail appeal to Classic, it's like, or not, or have two separate products that appeal to two separate types of people. And it seems like that's kind of what they're trying to do. My big question and maybe concern is it still feels like Classic is somewhat of an afterthought, despite, I mean, I don't have the analytics, I don't have the numbers, but it seems like there's a lot of people that are really enjoying this, but it still seems like somewhat of an afterthought. My question then becomes, what would make it a primary focus just like retail? And someone in the chat yesterday hinted at this, and this is a question I have for you guys. Would you guys be okay with store mounts or store pets to make it a primary focus for Blizzard to build Classic Plus? Would that be okay? Cosmetics on the store. Yes, no, 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 yes, no, 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 yes, no, no. Okay. No, no, yes, no, no, yes, no, 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 yes, yes, no, 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 no. The reason I bring that up is because, like I said, I don't have the numbers. I'm speculating from the outside. Say there's I'm making numbers up, right? Say there's 1 million people that play, or say there's 2 million people that play retail, making numbers up here, and say there's 1 million people that play Classic. Once again, making numbers up. But say those 2 million people that play retail, they can sell WoW tokens to, they can sell pets to, they can sell mounts to. So on average per subscriber, and they can sell a new expansion every 2 years. So the average subscriber on retail, they're making say 5x more. Maybe that's why in their mind as a business, they're prioritizing retail so much more. So in order to get that same type of attention to Classic, because if the numbers of Classic players went to 2 million or even surpassed retail to 3 million, so more people playing Classic, it still might be less profitable for them to focus on it. So then the question remains, would we be okay with cosmetic store mounts and pets? I don't know, something to balance out the dev time. That's a great explanation, actually. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, a lot of people are saying no, but then a lot of people are saying definitely yes. I'm not talking about the WoW token. I'm talking about a cosmetic only shop. people saying no are what's holding us back. I mean, I think there's fair points to say no. It's like, bro, it's classic WoW. Like, we don't want a bunch of random colored mounts running around the cities. I think it's a fair thing to say no to. Do a chat survey. I mean, I could do a quick poll. Like, would you be okay with store cosmetics for Classic Plus? Yes, no. And the idea is store cosmetics to incentivize Blizzard to give Classic Plus the attention, equal attention to retail, essentially. Like, equal attention to retail is what we're after here, right? Like I don't know. Anyway, I'll start the poll. Because for Blizzard, what it comes down to is opportunity cost. That's really what it is. If you have a certain amount of dev hours, people, whatever, it's like, are we going to put people towards the team where these subscribers are making us more money or less? It's not rocket science, right? So the poll is about 50-50. So people are pretty split on this one. For me, I feel like in a perfect world, I would say no cosmetics. I think I would be okay with 0 player power from the store, 0 boosts, gold, or player power from the store, only cosmetics. If something has to give, which might be a false dichotomy, maybe it doesn't have to be this way, but if something has to give, cosmetics to me are like the place that I don't care about as much. And you bought a pet, congratulations, bro. Like, everyone knows you bought it, fine. You want a pet, buy the pet, whatever. You buy a mount, okay, everyone knows you bought it, doesn't matter. But once you put player power behind the store, that's when I have a problem personally. It's like, wait, what? Now there's player power? Like, that's not cool. So for me, I would probably be okay with cosmetics. Not that I would want it, but it might be a good trade-off. I'm not okay with player power. Anyway, it's a good discussion. Like, it still seems like, despite the massive success of Classic, it still feels like somewhat of an afterthought, which is interesting, right?
You're not talking about Classic really, but I just find it fascinating because Jagex barely change anything in old school RuneScape. They've been like, they're terrified of upsetting that core players, like something like 70% or whatever of people have to agree to any changes they make. And it sounds like you've got almost multiple different versions of how you...
Holly, why are we laughing here? What was funny about what he said?
Yeah. So I know we're not talking about Classic really, but I just find it fascinating because Jagex barely change anything in old school RuneScape. They've been like, they're terrified of upsetting that core players, like something like 70% or whatever of people have to agree to any changes they make. And it sounds like you've got almost multiple different versions of how you approach it, which is even also interesting, fascinating.
That's how we started. Like, when we first relaunched Classic in 2019, the mantra at the time was like literally hashtag no changes. It's what our community wanted. The community viewed this 2004 game as the perfect game.
And that's what Jagex did too, by the way, right? When Jagex launched Old School in, 2013, there was no changes. And then it died pretty rapidly. And then they put in new content, and then it grew, right? So like, that's kind of what, I think that's kind of like the whole question.
And we went out of our way to even reproduce bugs and to reproduce quirks in the game.
In combat.
After I think once a community was playing the game, now it's a living organism. And like any MMO, it belongs to them as much as it does to us. And I think they came to the realization that, like, no, there are areas where they would like to see change. They would like to see some things tweaked. And I think that gave the team license to begin to experiment. And yeah, it's just been a fun example of the broadening of the opportunities and avenues that we try to offer to the World of Warcraft community. I mean, they are largely separate games at this point, largely separate communities, but all part of, like, all under this World of Warcraft umbrella and part of our community worldwide.
Fascinating. You've been part of Microsoft now for quite a while. They've obviously got a load of things they do when it comes to servicing, but you obviously are even more experienced in many other ways than they are. How have you found life under there? Have there been a lot of collaboration, a lot of working together?
I think honestly, one of the best things about it has been, like, we get on calls with the Elder Scrolls team, we talk to them, we get insights from Minecraft and chat with them, and it does unlock all this opportunity that probably would have been there if we made the phone call. But other than that, we don't really feel their presence. Like, we don't feel a Microsoft presence. I think they've been very trusting and supportive of the work we're doing. To say the phrase, keep cooking, like, keep doing what you do. And we're doing that with insights and sharing knowledge with other teams and having visits with them. And I think that's one of the joyous things. And the other side of it too is looking at all the opportunity that, being part of Microsoft can deliver for our players. Like, where are the opportunities there for, as we want to grow? And there's, probably some obvious glaring topics in there. But that to me is where the opportunity lies. I've only seen it so far consequential only in the positive way. They've been inclusive. We get to hear and see really cool things that are coming up that we wouldn't see otherwise.
Oh, great.
But obviously it's the connections and learnings, especially from Elder Scrolls and Minecraft and other live service games where, what can we share? What can we learn? Where are we going? What are we seeing? It's fantastic.
I'm going to go back to something you said earlier, which was around sometimes you just want to try stuff. I'm interested in this because obviously you want to listen to the players. That's the whole strategy. If you've got a successful live service business, you listen to the players, you react to the players, and that's what we've talked about throughout this whole chat. But also, you're creators, you're artists, right? You want to come up with new ideas and innovations and stuff. You want to give players things they didn't even realize they wanted.
Yeah,
right? So how do you strike that balance?
That's a great
between
question.
wanting
Really good
to
question.
create and innovate and just break stuff, and obviously also the most important thing, which is making sure we react to what they're saying.
I think listening to players is less about hearing them say, we want X, and then going and making X. It's more about them telling us what they enjoy, what they're frustrated with, what they wish there was more of, and both, telling us through forums, through social media, through in-game feedback, but also just through data, through their behavior, and making sure we have, good analytics so that we're understanding what our silent majority or plurality of players are actually doing with their time.
Yeah,
People who aren't necessarily going to forums or
That's
to
what we were talking
X
about
or
earlier.
whatever
Okay, cool.
to talk to us. And then, just trying to serve those motivations. I think one of the most exciting features that we've added to WoW in recent years, Holly referenced it earlier. It was a feature called Delves that we added in the War Within expansion that are basically, very dynamic solo or small group dungeons that rather than needing a pre-made group to do, you can just do on your own in your own time. That's not something players were explicitly asking for, but what we were seeing was that there were tons of players who played solo, who maybe played with a single friend, who, engaged with the game deeply, but then kind of hit a wall at our end game where it felt like you needed to join a large group in order to progress further, in order to do anything. And so, understanding that gap, understanding this.
I have a question for retail players in the chat. So I played retail a lot at the start of War Within, but I haven't played throughout. Would you guys consider Delves a success or a failure in terms of a feature? Just say success or failure. Okay, so most people are saying it's a massive success. Obviously, there's some people are failure. Okay, so like overwhelmingly success. That's what I thought. I'm a little out of touch since I haven't played retail in like a year-ish. But I really enjoyed them on launch. My problem with them is at some point you outskill the gear, right? Like if you do top end mythic rating or mythic plus, like the gear's just better. So why would I go back to a delve when I could get better gear? But what I will say is the individual challenge for like the question mark boss at the end, what was it called? Xaryu or something? I thought that was a blast. And then being able to like start the expansion with some type of solo PvE content was a blast. So one of the things I learned from playing RuneScape, was it Kaiveza? I thought it was Xaryu. I don't know, whatever the name was. One of the things I learned from playing RuneScape was how much fun solo PvE content can be. And we already learned it from Mage Tower, and Delves are kind of like an extension of that. And Xaryu was season 1. Okay, yeah. I played season 1. Solo PvE content can be really fun. Then the hard thing is, though, how do you make it exciting for players, right? Like, so Xaryu, you got like a title if you soloed it. It was called the Immortal Spelunker, I want to say, or something like that. And that's pretty cool. I think the title was kind of cool. The gear, though, if it scales past Mythic gear, then it's like, well, why would I Mythic raid? I'll just Mythic delve. And like, that's probably bad because then you don't have like the social interaction and like this like social connection where you have to build raids and stuff like that. So as long as there's a reason to do it, like I think it's pretty cool. You get a cool mount skin too. Oh, that's really cool. Yeah. It's like Mage Tower, like pure cosmetic. Yeah. Like Mage Tower was pretty much perfect, right? Like you got something really cool from it, right? Cosmetically. And people kind of knew what it was. And it wasn't like easy, but it wasn't like impossible. Like I thought that was pretty much sweet. So if they keep nailing that with Delves, like I think it's a W.
Audience's need is a big part of what led us to say, okay, we're going to prioritize really adding a true deep endgame for them. And that's become and remains a pillar of World of Warcraft today and going forward. And I think it's something that, some players, it was interesting to see a lot of our loudest players, frankly, a lot of our influencers, content creators, were skeptical about the feature when it was initially announced because it wasn't for them.
Right.
They were already enjoying going into raids with 15 other people or whatever, and kind of wondered, like, why is Blizzard wasting their time on this thing?
I wonder who was saying that. I remember when Delves were announced, maybe it was all the classic players. Like, I was super excited. Savix was super excited. Like, all of us hardcore players were excited because it's like, oh, cool, solo challenge, kind of like hardcore, right? Who was upset about it? You? No, I was very excited about it when they launched it. Oh, was it Max? Like the Race to World First Raiders? Maybe the like, oh, so it was like Max. Okay, so it was like Race to World First kind of raiders, top end raiders that were upset because they thought, oh, maybe if delves become a thing, less people might get in the raiding. I think that's a fair, okay, maybe that's a fair reason to be a little afraid.
Turns out delves are, one of the most popular features we've ever made. They just weren't aimed necessarily at our hardcore audience. It's what players needed.
That must be difficult when you've got so many different audiences, all different shapes and sizes, all wanting different things.
It's hard. It's really hard not to react and not to overreact. So, grateful that we have all these avenues to collect data so we can try and get the true story, not the story of the moment,
I think it's one of the hallmarks of World of Warcraft. I think from a developer's perspective, boy, is it challenging. Well, it would be so much simpler if we could just pick one or two play styles and say, okay, we're going to make the game for these players and we're going to hyper serve them. And it would be much easier for everyone and it would be a far worse game. And I think part of the magic of World of Warcraft is that you can have a dozen different people who all identify as serious WoW players. You could sit them around a table and ask them what it is that they like about the game and what they do when they log in. And you could hear a dozen different stories. But all of those people cohabit the same interconnected MMO world. And that world is so much richer for all of those different perspectives than it would be if we just picked one or two play styles and said, okay, we're going to cater to those at the expense of everything else.
And I just wanted to say, when you were asking about, how do we make sure we, as creators, are doing what we think players want? And, we have all this information at our backs, but really, like, even when we talk about the inception of an expansion, if we take Last Titan, for example, it's sitting in a room and it's like, we're gamers. We love WoW. What do we want to see? Like, what do we want this game to do? And we go through, like, what's going to make us sit up and notice, not just our player base, but what are we super passionate about? And you get incredible ideas that are innovations grounded in, a passion for the game, and where we see the world can evolve a little bit for players. So there is absolutely room. I'm really proud of the team and the fact that we go in informed. So these aren't whims. They're based on a foundation of solving a problem, which our team is incredibly good at.
It's a really good, it's really fascinating chat, nice. Getting insight into how you're working. And
nice. I for one think that this would be a hard job to separate the very loud minority of players and the silent majority, and looking at the data and then the players saying, we want this, we want that. Like, for the people out there completely always hating on Blizzard, like, maybe you have a good reason to, but I will say it doesn't seem like an easy task, right? To for all of the different types of players, the role players, the PvPers, the RBGers, the solo shufflers, the mythic plusers, the delvers, the raiders, the more casuals, the collectors, the transmogger. How, like, it does seem it would be a nearly impossible task, and like I do want to give them that. Could they do better? Of course. Questers, yeah, I guess I'm a quester. I'm a hardcore quester, baby. Lock in a dial.
And all of that. But I'm interested to know then, and obviously I'm not asking for a detailed roadmap here, but I often say, what's the 5-year plan? What's the 10-year plan? I guess if you can have a 10-year plan in video games, I don't know if that's remotely possible. But like, what's the long-term vision of where you'd like to end up? I
mean, top line, we want everybody to be able to play WoW. I will say this for myself. I think Warcraft itself is poised for growth. It's a fantastic IP. I think, in my humble opinion, it's been underutilized. I just want to bring it to as many people as possible. And that means, evolving what Warcraft means, what it is, and where it's going. We want it to be approachable. And that's also part of it. Even with Chris Metzen, we talk about, sometimes he's like, man, I wish we hadn't called it Warcraft. It sounds kind of intimidating. I'm like, nobody really thinks that about Warhammer. It's just, it's an understood name, essentially. So this idea of third space in our online worlds, we couldn't even define what that means exactly, but we're working on figuring that out. We want people to come in and hang out and have birthdays, have weddings, have raids, grand adventures, play with their friends, meet new friends, like all the things that traditionally for over 20 years, World of Warcraft has been good at. And at the same time, we want to take advantage of 20 years of stories that have been told and not told and start bringing it out to the world in a broader way. Like, that's my goal and vision. And I know Ian supports it.
I think people love Warcraft. I think that was like originally why it was so exciting. Or like a lot of the stories being told early on, like Alliance versus Horde, like, yeah. And I'll go out on a limb here, and I'm curious what Holly and Ian would say to me about this. But I'll go out on a limb here and say, like, the art direction they're going, like the Disneyfication of Warcraft, is like not beloved by a lot of people. Like, there's people that don't care, and that's fine. But there's a lot of people that dislike it. I haven't heard many people saying, "Oh, I love this," right? So I'm curious what the data is saying about that. I really am curious what the data is saying. Like, why is it continuing to go in that direction? Maybe I'm missing something. I probably am missing something. But like, yeah, no, I think people love that, right? But when I say love that, I mean like the Warcraft of it, right? Like, I don't know.
And, when we do hear these impassioned cries from, parents who are like, please, let me play this game with my kids. I just want to hang out.
Maybe that's it. Maybe they're trying to appeal to parents with kids and make it more Disney, like for the next gen. Maybe that's it right there. Maybe, I don't know.
Out with my kids. And I don't want to do it in other games. I want to do it in the game I love.
Maybe she just answered our question right there. Maybe they're making it Disney and like kiddie, because it's like, yeah, maybe they're trying to, I don't know.
And so that's a minor seed of the vast, potential garden of, people who love incredible challenges. Like, what are we going to do for them in the future? How do we roll in the community? And, one of the lovely things about housing that's a reminder to us is, we only kicked that off in earnest in December to have people filtering into it. And just to see there's now a whole community forming around how to make stuff. That to me is the beauty of MMOs. It becomes a real community, not just in-game, but in-game and out, that supports each other. And that to me is the dream. And as much of that as we can create, loving community that likes to inform and be experts and share, that to me is online spaces in a fantasy realm that gives you an escape, gives you a place to hang out, gives you something to focus on when maybe things outside of that realm maybe not so good, or even if they're great and you want to share it with somebody. So I think, and Ian can speak to it too, that to me is, broadly speaking, every decision we make has that kind of thread in it. And where are we going? How do we get to this space where everyone is welcome? Tying into how they play and the activities they want to do and who they want to do it with, and even who they don't want to. The whole team is excited about this idea of, we want to preserve what World of Warcraft is and what people expect. We're never going to stop doing the things we know people love. But at the same time, I think we have a bigger vision simply than an MMORPG, in my opinion. Of a bigger vision simply than an MMORPG, in my opinion.
Well, Ian, do you have anything to add to that?
Okay, so I made the claim last week that they're pushing housing so hard because, okay, so let's rewind a few years, right? A few years ago, we have the NFT craze, and the whole idea is you have digital assets that you will one day potentially put in a digital house, in a digital world, in a digital space, right? And that was the whole NFT concept. It's like, okay, let's get these NFTs, sell them, buy them, and store them. And look, you have prestige on your wall in your digital home. Now, the reality with NFTs is there's no digital homes yet. So digital art for a digital wall in a digital space that doesn't exist yet is maybe a bit early. But wait, does a digital home exist? Right? So this is the claim I made last week. Maybe they're pushing it so hard because Blizzard realizes, oh, we can create digital homes. We can create we have a digital world. We have digital things that have meaning, right? Achievements, titles, mounts, right? Collectors, items, spectral tigers, stuff like that. Like these things are a real NFT, kind of like a CS2 skin or whatever. So my claim was maybe they have a plan to kind of create their metaverse of WoW, right? Right. This is a little more abstract, but this was the claim I was making last week. A lot of people called me an idiot, but I'm thinking after she said that, we can replay it one more time.
An MMORPG. And I think we have a bigger vision simply than an MMORPG.
I think they're trying to make WoW into the metaverse. They might be. Like this might be yeah. I think I'm actually right from last week after hearing that. Could be wrong too, but like that's interesting. That's really interesting.
Well, Ian, do you have anything to add to that, or is that robustly answered?
I mean, I think, we firmly believe that our best years are ahead of us. It's game design, but it's also social design, and it's trying to understand and think about, how we meet a new generation where they are. And that's going to mean thinking outside the box in some places, compared to what our game has traditionally been. But we're excited to keep taking big swings and to dream big and to do what we can to make that a reality.
I'm conscious of the time, and I know that you're building up to the launch of the expansion. Now you're doing stuff in game and having sort of getting people. So you're right in the midst of it. So I'll let you get back to it. But thank you so much, Ian. Thank you so much, Holly, for joining us. It's a fascinating to see Warcraft. And I do honestly believe that in like 20 years' time, we're going to get a load of retired people just flooding back in. I'm looking forward to my generation getting. I mean, a bunch of them still play, but some of them don't have as much time anymore. So
we can hang out. You can join our guild.
Okay.
Yeah. Looking for WoW parties in the retirement homes.
What's so funny about that? Of course we're gonna do that. Why is that a joke? That's not a joke. We're gonna be gaming up. What's so funny, man? Yeah, we're gonna be in retirement homes playing, rated out BWL or something.
It'll happen. I believe it. I believe it will happen. Thank you so much.
Cosplay could be a thing, by the way.
Yeah. Well, there's somebody linked me to an esports team of people, pensioner esports teams. I think it's great. That's going to happen. It's happening.
I'm in.
I don't understand why the shots to the retirement home, man. Yeah. What are they laughing about?
We're still in the early days of video games. Thank you, Ollie. Thank you, Ian. I really enjoyed that.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
That's it for this week's episode of the Game Business Show. Thank you to Holly and Ian for joining me. I actually thought that was a really interesting chat. I didn't know what to expect, and I have sort of a burning urge now to go back and play a bit more Warcraft. We will be back, of course, with more news, analysis, insight and interviews in the days and weeks ahead. If you want to make sure you don't miss an episode, head to thegamebusiness.com right now and sign up for our newsletter. Until next time, thank you for tuning in.
I have to say, this guy had really good questions. Like, I particularly liked the question where he said, how do you differentiate between the vocal minority and like the silent majority? Like that was really insightful, right? This was worth it. This was worth listening to. It still feels like Classic is an afterthought on some of like Holly's responses, which is like maybe analytically based, which it probably is. So it leads us to like more questions. What would we want to do to make it so that Blizzard focuses on it as much or more than retail, or maybe as much? I don't know. It's really interesting. What up, chat? I've really just been like listening to the video, thinking and replying. I haven't been reading as much chat. We need one of these videos with a Grend. Yeah, that'd be great. They're focused on retail launch right now. Fair enough. Yeah. Retail earns a lot more than Classic. Yeah, exactly. That was kind of the point. Yeah. Raiding soon. I think we are going to raid soon. Is Ampy on yet? I don't know if did Ampy stay up late last night? I don't know. I mean, we're just doing MC. I was going to start at 11 and it's 10:56. He did a 14-hour stream. Oh, Okay, we might have to do MCBWL then. Can you read my dono? Yes, we missed some donos. We had a $10 dono from KT, said, sorry, late message, I was AFK. Isn't the profitability equation different between classic and retail? Because of the classic community wants a fraction of the content. So even if they make 5 times more money, they only need a fraction of the investment. That's a fair take. Sure, like that probably changes the equation a bit. I don't think classic players want necessarily 5 times less content. They just want, like, I think, and I don't want to speak for everyone, but a perfect content cadence for classic would be something similar to retail, where every 6 months there's something really new and exciting to look forward to, and you get to play it for a while, and there's tiers, and then a new raid, and then something else new, right? Like, so I don't, like, there would need to be a live service. There would need to be active development. It's not just, oh, let's just leave them to play Nax forever. I don't know, like Scarlet Enclave was cool, but like after 3 or 4 months of Scarlet Enclave, like you're kind of ready for that next thing. So it would need definite active development. I don't know, maybe as much as retail, but you would still need to be there. $5 from Royal says, when I played Ascension Classic Plus server, they had a lot of cool cosmetics, like new demon skins and stuff. And I hope Blizzard does this in an earnable way in the game for druid forms, etc. Maybe this is a hot take, but I thought it was sick. If Blizzard adds cosmetics to Classic Plus, we would probably get a lot more of their dev attention time. That's what I will say. Everyone's saying, no. I'm just saying it how it is, guys. If Blizzard put in cosmetics, we would probably get more of their dev and attention time. If there's no cosmetics, it probably means less of that. They're like, I wish that wasn't the way it is, but it is, right? It's simple, like opportunity cost. Should they spend their time doing stuff on retail where they can make a long boy mount and print however many millions, right? Or not, like, should they put it on classic where there's no store at all, right? Like, it's just how it works. If it's only cosmetics, then fine, but please no other store stuff. I mean, that's kind of where I'm at. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. We've got a $5 super chat from Raven. He says, if Mark Zuckerberg couldn't successfully build a metaverse, does WoW even stand a chance? My point with that was more about the closest thing we have to an online persistent virtual world is WoW. Like, that was more my point, right? And I think they're realizing this, right? So I think it kind of goes both ways. With that mindset, do you think Classic Plus could be a different subscription cost? Why would they even make it then? What do you mean by that? So, like, once again, it's all opportunity costs. The way I see it is Blizzard has figured out how to monetize retail with a subscription cost and with store stuff, whether you like it or not. That's just how it is. So when you look at Blizzard's opportunity cost, should we have dev attention to the game that gives us the WoW sub plus the store sales, or towards the one that only gives us the subscription cost without the store sales? That's my point. But I see the frustrations with that. I do. Hey, Czar, when I said cosmetics like demon skins should be earnable, I meant through playing the game, not microtransactions, maybe new quests or solo challenges. Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. I mean, that's a given. Absolutely. Definitely. You're also forgetting that retail has so many more players. Okay, I might be on copium on this. You know, I probably am on copium on this one. But I have the vision that in 5 or 10 years, if they do Classic Plus right, there would be more people that are playing Classic than retail. That's my take. I could be completely wrong. I'm not, like, I just really see that. I see that possible. It's just like RuneScape. A lot of people are saying copium. That's fine. Like, it is a crazy take. It's a crazy take, but I think I could be right. But I respect the copiums because you guys, you know, it is a crazy take. I know that. I know it's a crazy take. But it happened with RuneScape. Happened with old school in RS3. I'm not saying 1 year from now. I'm not saying 2 years from now. I'm saying like 5 or 10 years from now, if they develop Classic Plus into what we know it could be, and there's a brand new player that's retiring, or not a brand new player, someone retiring that wants to come back to WoW, what are they going to play? Right? What are they going to play? Like, you know, I'm saying, guys, I really think it's possible. Look at league success with just skins. Yeah, I mean, it's just a different model altogether. Yeah, I mean, you could, it kind of begs the question, like, could WoW go free to play plus skins to get a larger, like, critical mass, so to speak, and monetize those skins to more people? That's what League does. That's what Counter-Strike does. That's what a lot of the top grossing games in the world do, right? Free to play plus skins, especially on like mobile. But I don't know. That's a whole nother conversation. It's a whole nother conversation. Skins for what though? Well, like in Counter-Strike, there's like skins for your what was your I was gonna say sword, your dagger, your pokey thing. What's it in Counter-Strike? It's your knife. Yeah, I was gonna call it a sword. And then your gun, right? And WoW, you have pets, mounts, transmogs. I guess those are the big three. Guess there's Hearthstone appearances. You could probably sell stuff for housing, which is probably another reason they're so stoked about it. What else is there in WoW? So yeah, emotes, tabards. I mean, there's stuff. Nihao says, "Hey Zara in chat, just cosmetics won't bring Classic close to retail's monetary value. If you really want dev attention, it's the WoW token, transmog, auction house mount. Just cosmetics without that is still a fraction. We're fooling ourselves otherwise." That is true, and that's a fair point. If we wanted, assuming there's an equal player base on retail and Classic, which is not a fair assumption because there's more that play retail, but assuming one day it becomes equalized, which once again is not the case currently, we would still need, for equal dev attention, we would still then need all of those other things, which I think people just like don't want, right? Especially the auction house mount. Transmog I think is more split. The WoW token I think more people don't want because that's player power at that point. So WoW token no, auction house mount no, transmog I think is like kind of split. Like most people actually don't want it, but some people might be like okay. So yeah. Anyway, I'm happy we watched this video. There was lots of insights there. It was a good discussion and conversation. I like thinking and talking about this stuff. I think a lot of the times when I do, it gets the chat real riled up and real heated. But I like to talk and think about it in more of a way of like constructive. Like I want WoW the best it can be. You guys do too. I think starting discussions about it and thinking about it and being like, is a good thing to do. So I'm glad we watched it. Thanks for the link.